While part studios in Onshape, like the one you see here, allow you to design as many parts as you wish within a single workspace, Assemblies in Onshape enable you to add motion and behaviors in your designs using mates, as well as bringing additional part or assembly studios together in an assembly. To add a new assembly, I'll touch the plus icon in the lower left corner and create an assembly. When I do, I'm placed into the new assembly tab, which is empty at the moment. To get started, I'll touch the Insert Parts icon, and a pop-up appears. To insert something into the assembly, just touch it. Here I can insert the entire part studio into this assembly, or you can touch the individual part names to insert just the ones you want. So for now, I'll insert everything from the part studio. The feature list shows all the instances of the items I inserted, as well as another section for mate features that I'll come back to in a moment. At the moment, everything in this assembly is free to move. If I touch an item to select it, I can touch again anywhere on the screen to move it. To deselect it, I'll just double tap anywhere on the screen, and now I can rotate the view again. If I select a couple of parts, I can touch anywhere on the screen to move them together. Likewise, I can use the handles of the triad to translate or rotate. Since all these parts are free to move, the first thing I'll do is fix one of the parts so that it removes all of its degrees of freedom. To do this, I can touch the ellipses icon next to the part I'd like to fix in the features list, or I can touch one of the parts graphically and bring up the context menu by tapping with 2 fingers, and then touch the option to fix the part I selected. If I try to move the part, you can see it's fixed in space. To assemble the other parts and begin adding some behaviors and motion, let's add a few mates. You can see the various mate types on the toolbar. Onshape defines mates based on the intended behavior that you'd like as a result, such as fastened, revolute, slider, planar, cylindrical, and ball. For the first mate, I'd like to fasten the inner caliper to the outer caliper so that they're essentially glued together, so I'll touch the Fasten Mate icon. Okay, in the pop-up, Onshape is asking me to select mate connectors. Mate connectors are at the heart of adding mates in Onshape, and mates are always added between 2 mate connectors. If I touch any face, you can see small dots appear. These dots are potential locations where you can establish a mate connector. To select one of the dots, I'll go ahead and use the Precision Select tool by holding down my finger. And when I pick up my finger, notice a triad appears. This triad is the mate connector. What's powerful about mate connectors is that they're not just locations on faces or edges, but rather actual coordinate systems with their own X, Y, and Z axes. The orientation of these axes come into play with different mate types such as slider or revolute mates, but I won't go too much into that for now since the fasten mate I'm adding here will remove all the degrees of freedom. All right, to select the second mate connector, I'll rotate the view. And this time I can again touch the face of the hole to use one of these mate connector locations. Or I can even use the flat face. And notice one of the potential locations is at the center of the hole on this flat face. I'll go ahead and use it, and again the Precision Select tool to select it. When I pick up my finger, the part snaps into place. Notice there are icons to flip the primary and secondary axes in case you need to make any adjustments to get the result you're looking for. As I make adjustments to the secondary axis, notice how the orientation changes, which is changing relative to the orientation of the coordinate system of the 2 mate connectors. I'll touch the green check, and the mate is added. Notice in the features list, you can see the fasten mate listed here. If I touch the ellipses and edit the mate, I can change the mate type from fastened to any of the other mate types. In case you're ever unsure about which mate type to use initially, keep this in mind that you can always change it later, as well as flipping the primary or secondary orientation. I'll cancel for now. At this point, let's go ahead and add one more mate for the piston. To make the selection a bit easier, I'll hide one of the calipers. For the piston, I'd like to be able to slide about the bore here, so I'll use the slider mate. I'll touch the cylindrical face of the bore to see the locations for mate connectors on it, and select this one here. Earlier, I mentioned the importance of the orientation of the triad. In the case of a slider mate, the only degree of freedom that'll be left once I apply it will be along this blue axis. For the piston, I'll touch the flat face to see the available connector locations and use the Precision Select tool to select it. Before I pick up my finger, notice the orientation of the blue axis on this connector as well. When I pick up my finger, the part snaps into place. And I could, of course, flip the orientation. I'll touch the green check. And now when I move the piston, you can see how it can slide in and out of the bore. Mates and mate connectors are powerful, and as you can see here, only 2 mates were added to assemble these parts and get the behavior I was looking for. One last thing, in this example, I used the mate tools on the toolbar to select mate connectors based on the default locations for available mate connectors. But keep in mind, you can always use the mate connector tool to precisely define the location and the orientation of mate connectors ahead of time to use in any mates you like. The assembly capabilities we looked at here in the Onshape touch interface are of course available when running Onshape in a standard web browser. And if you'd like some more information about assemblies and mates, check out some of the videos on these topics from the Help menu after logging in.